Atlantis. The story of Atlantis was first mentioned in two of Plato's dialogues, the Timaeus and the Critias, written in 360 BCE. While the Timaeus is an account of the creation and structure of the universe and ancient civilizations, Critias mentions an alleged historical tale of Atlantis. Atlantis, the mythical city of dreams and incredible architecture, is thought to be one of the most extraordinary civilizations of the ancient world. It is rumored that it vanished overnight, without warning. It sank in a night and a day into the ocean around 9600 BCE, but it was never forgotten. It is as stimulating and fascinating as it has ever been. Plato writes in Critias that he heard the story of Atlantis from his grandfather, who had heard it from Solon, an Athenian statesman and one of the wisest of the ancient Greeks. Solon, who lived around 200 years before Plato's time, had learnt it from an Egyptian priest. According to the Egyptian priest, Atlantis had disappeared 9,000 years before Plato. In his book, Plato described the location of Atlantis vividly.
For the ocean there was at that time navigable. For in front of the mouth which Greeks call as the Pillars of Heracles, there lay an island which was larger than Libya and Asia together.
Heracles here refers to Hercules. Asia here refers to Asia Minor, the westernmost part of Asia. In other words, it is in the Atlantic Ocean, west of the Strait of Gibraltar, beyond the Mediterranean. The myth goes like this. At the beginning of history, the Olympians decided to divide the earth between themselves and live peacefully. The island of Atlantis and the nearby land went to Poseidon, the god of the sea, who founded the Poseidon dynasty. After a while, Poseidon appointed his firstborn, Atlas, to be king of the island. The entire island, the capital city and the surrounding sea were all named after him, Atlantis. Atlantis was a superpower in the ancient world with 10,000 chariots and numerous bulls and elephants. It had fertile soil, plentiful pure water, abundant vegetation, and such mineral wealth that gold was inlaid in buildings and was among the precious metals and stones worn as jewelry. In the center of the island were public baths that had fountains with natural hot and cold springs for health and vigor, and recreation areas. Atlanteans mined white, black, and red stones for use in their construction. Slaves performed manual labor, allowing the elite to pursue knowledge, enjoy sporting events, and continually improve upon an already thriving society. It had a glorious culture with wonderful palaces and temples, harbors and docks. The people of Atlantis lived in a golden age of harmony and abundance. Atlantis was apparently a technologically advanced society. In addition to magnificent architectural structures, a network of bridges and tunnels linked the concentric rings of land, and clever uses of natural resources provided security and abundance. This irrigation system ensured great harvests. The water rings served as canals for trade and helped form a series of natural defenses that made an invasion of Atlantis extremely difficult. The circles of land had outer walls covered in brass, and the inner walls were made of the precious metal orichalcum. Atlantis had an advanced form of governance and a skilled military. Many groves provided solitude and beauty. Racetracks were used for athletic competitions. The flowers were so richly scented that they made the warm air intoxicating. Great herds of tame cattle grazed the pastures, and the water in the streams was as clear as crystal. This island housed the magnificent palace that had amazing architecture to protect it from the harsh north winds. The Atlanteans built a citadel that was situated in the center of Atlantis with a temple dedicated to Poseidon, the Greek god of the sea, bedecked in silver and gold. Inside was a gold statue of Poseidon riding a chariot pulled by 6 winged horses. This temple served as the home of the primary ruler. The rulers of Atlantis would meet in this temple to discuss laws, pass judgments, and pay tribute to Poseidon. They would pledge to obey and support the law. The mythical island was enclosed within 3 circular moats of increasing width and separated by rings of land proportional in size. The first ring-shaped island had many small temples and beautiful gardens. The second ring of land had horse racing tracks and army quarters for the king's bodyguards. There were bridges and tunnels for the ships to pass into the city around the mountain. They carved docks from the rock walls of the moats. A ship could sail right into the city when given permission by the king. There were excellent sailors who had explored the oceans of the world. Every day, the canals were full of sailing ships bringing important cargoes. The city's dockyards were busy even at night. Living in this utopian land, the people had a lot of freedom. Great universities, observatories, libraries, laboratories, and academies for people of all ages show that the legendary city was a hub of arts and sciences. Portions of the city were devoted to commerce and industry because the Atlanteans used the discoveries of their scientists and technologists as the basis of a flourishing trade with other nations. Travelers to the city wrote glorious accounts of the skilled craftsmen who worked in precious metals, of the gentle sea breeze that cleared the smoke of their foundries from the air, of the busy markets where country folk sold the rich produce of their farms, and of the frequent festivals which brought throngs of Atlanteans singing and dancing into the streets. This was a perfect state where people obeyed the law and possessed goodness and wisdom and valued the true things in life, such as friendship and knowledge. They had wealth and luxury, and they were neither greedy nor dishonest. This lasted for many generations. Then, unfortunately, things began to change. The Atlanteans became ambitious. They decided to conquer the lands around the Mediterranean. Their large armies of well-trained warriors began to invade other nearby islands and to make the people their slaves. And then there were wars. In about 9500 BCE, the Atlantean army clashed with warriors from Athens. Arrows darkened the sky. The hooves of the chariot horses were like thunder upon Olympus. The attempt to invade Athens and the Atlantean greed angered the gods. They sent fire and earthquakes to submerge Atlantis into the Atlantic Ocean. The fire and the earthquakes were followed by a tsunami, and the island was flooded. By the time the seas became calm, Atlantis had disappeared from the face of the earth. The race of Atlanteans was the most technologically advanced, powerful, and prosperous ever seen. Yet, their decline was swift and dramatic. Within a day, the magnificent civilization had vanished. Was Atlantis real, or is it a legend? One thing is certain. The story continues to inspire people to investigate history and explore the world.